We in here. Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. Well, it shouldn't even be Three Count Commentaries. That's about wrestling. This is our Sunday night live stream where we talk about things like pop culture. I'm very tired. Just got off the exercise bike. Just got out the shower. I'm very tired. All right. So I watched a couple of documentaries. I watched like 30 minutes of Epic Times documentary on January 6th. I got bored. I'm very bored of that subject. So I'm not going to talk about that today. But I did watch the 3-part Twin Flames documentary on, I watched it. I sailed the high seas to find it, but it's on Netflix. We're going to talk, the top story today is going to be, of course, Katt Williams and his verbal assault on Hollywood. I watched a lot, 50 episodes of Hajime no Ippo, the anime. It's very good. I want to talk about that a little bit. Also watched Blue Eye Samurai, the 8-part animated series, also on Netflix, which I found by sailing the high seas. So we'll talk about that too. I also watched a documentary on another cult, but I can't remember what it's called. It slipped my mind. So if I remember what it is, I'll talk about that. But how is everybody doing? Hopefully everybody had a nice new year. Hopefully everybody had a good holiday season. Hope you're not too tired from going back to work. I mean, I was burnt out that whole first week. I was no good to nobody. But hopefully things look up for everybody. All right, so we're gonna wait for some of the people to come in, but we want to get started with Katt Williams as we just. It was interesting because like about last week, Katt Williams did an interview with Shannon Sharp where he starts talking about all the various comedians and Hollywood figures. He starts, talking about the Illuminati and a lot of other significant issues. And I was enthralled as everybody else, but I was not and never have been a fan of Katt Williams. I was not and has not sat through 2 hours and 30 minutes of Katt Williams. I think I watched one of his stand-up specials, which was more than I ever needed to watch. He's been funny in certain roles, like a pimp named Slickback in Boondocks. He was funny as Money Mike and Friday. But otherwise, I really don't find Katt Williams to be that hilarious. But he was very entertaining when it comes to just talking that good shit on Shannon Sharp's show. And so I want to discuss a couple of things there because he talked a lot about like the Illuminati and different things like that. And I want to discuss, because I don't think I've ever discussed whether I believe in the Illuminati or anything like that on this channel, which it seems like I would be the kind of person who would believe that kind of thing. And to be quite honest, I do. I do believe in the Illuminati. I don't go to the extreme as everybody else, but I believe in the Illuminati. I think that there's large groups of people. I do believe that Hollywood is a patronage system. I believe that a lot of our institutions in the United States operate as a patronage system. And what that means is, for people who don't know, is to be a patron of somebody is to be almost a servant to somebody else. So that means that if somebody gets to a position, you snuggle up, you brown nose, you become a patron to that person, or that person patronizes you. That means puts you under their wing, and then they bring you up. So I do believe that a lot of Hollywood and our institutions like government, colleges, a lot of the different organizations in our system operate this way. It operates under a patronage system. It doesn't operate under a system of merit. It is not the best person gets the job. It is more likely the person with the right politics, who looks the right way, is friends with the right people, get the job. And I say this as a person who believes in meritocracy. I believe that the best person should always get the job, but I'm never in control of who even gets the job. So I can't do too much about who gets screwed over. AJ3 says, I hear about my boy Jason Whitlock. You talking about the porn thing? When he he went to a site and and said he was looking up pornography, which is hilarious. But I want to get to that. I didn't watch his video on it, but the algorithm exposing him, basically he exposed himself, which was hilarious. But I want to get through this first, then I'll get to that. So how I think everything works, and this is pretty much the case, and I'm going to say this right off rip. I do not believe that everybody, that the number one thing that you hear about um, fraternities, sororities, or whatever is sex. That's the number one thing you hear. I'll tell you, I do not believe that everybody who has furthered their career has done so through sex. Not everybody. But I do believe there is a Ray Donovan-like figure. I don't know if you guys know about HBO, but I think HBO had a TV show called Ray Donovan, where basically there's this guy, he was like a fixer for like Hollywood celebrities and such. And he got them out of trouble before the media could find out about it. I do believe those kinds of people exist. And I believe that the government, various institutions or whatever, that in a patronage system, they will ask you to do things that will compromise you, and therefore they can control you. I do believe that. And I believe that more so than, oh yeah, you're just going to have butt sex with some guy. I don't believe that at all, because that's not going to give you guaranteed control over somebody. What will give you guaranteed control over somebody is if you got something that will destroy their life or destroy their career or destroy their reputation, which you can dangle over their head forever. Oh, Ray Donovan was on Showtime. Okay. It was a Showtime show. I do believe that. This ties into the whole Epstein thing, right? I do believe there was a lot of people, and this is why they're not really releasing the Epstein files. You think they're releasing it, but they're not. This is what made the Epstein story so big, is because there's so many people in our system, in our institutions, that were friendly. If they didn't go to the island, they still know Jeffrey Epstein. They still went to his parties. They were friends with his friends. They knew what was going on, and therefore they put themselves in positions where they were compromised. And as soon as you get compromised, you're able to be controlled. This is how really bad things begin to spread. And I was thinking about this a lot over the last couple of weeks. Like something like, how did something like diversity, equity, and inclusion, how did that spread so quickly? Like before you even realized it, it was basically a religion. You know, you didn't notice what was going on, but it was basically a religion, and then it became a point where you can't even talk about it. And it became college professors and Hollywood and football players and star athletes and all these people. And then if you go against the narrative, you're destroyed. All of a sudden, we start finding out things about you that we didn't know before, right? We start talking about, various things in your personal life, various things about your growing up, etc., that were never mentioned before. Like, there have been people who have been busted doing all kind of crazy stuff. They never went to jail for it. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger got arrested for sexual assault like 3 or 4 times. He never. I don't think he ever went to jail. We used to call him Ben Rapistburger. But there have been people who didn't play the game. They got accused of crimes and got their careers destroyed. So how do I figure that the Illuminati works? I think that you are asked to go to an event. This is where we go to like the Katt Williams thing. Do I believe that Katt Williams and Ludacris stood there like 2 slaves on a block, and a bunch of people said, no, one of you guys can't have sideburns, the other guy can't? No, I don't believe that occurred at all. I don't believe that occurred. I believe, however, that there is perhaps some leverage that they have over some people that they don't have over others. And I think that if you just look at the behaviors, the Diddy parties, and I believe that the Diddy party and shit, I believe that shit's real. All right, the Diddy parties are absolutely real. All right, and I do believe Diddy is gay and probably tricks a lot of men into having sex with them or utilizing that leverage to get people to do it. I believe he does to girls too. Like I get attacked a lot. They say I don't believe any kind of sexual assault. Whenever there's a sexual assault case or something like that, you say it's not real, Mongo. You didn't ask me about Diddy. Because I believe every single word about Diddy. And I believe like 60% of the stuff about R. Kelly. We don't talk about the right things. We don't talk about bullshit, all right? But Diddy, absolutely. Absolutely. I do believe Diddy was, uses people to get what he wants. And for years, Diddy giving you the rub is what made you a star in the rap industry. Some people, they ain't make it until Diddy put a little shine on them. You're not gonna say any names, but Meat Mill is one of them. But this is how the game goes. I don't believe that everybody is, a power bottom for Diddy or whatever. I do believe, however, that he has a lot of leverage and he can put you in really bad situations that when he gives you that high level cosign, you make it through. You get more opportunities because you can call Diddy and say, hey, I need this. But he's gonna ask for something in return. Doesn't necessarily have to be sex. It could be anything. And that's the one thing that when people talk about like fraternities and sororities and secret societies, and they always focus on sex. They always focus on homosexuality and sex. And I say that you really missed the point. You really missed the point. These people can have you killed. These people can have other people killed. These people can have anything they want covered up. They have that kind of leverage. They have that kind of authority over people. And it's gained through patronage. And this was my problem with a lot of the Katt Williams stuff, is the guy's talking about how many movies he was in, how many TV specials he's had, how much money he's got. And it seems that he believes that everybody who's more famous than him is in the Illuminati. Which is crazy because everybody's sitting here looking like, well, fucking Katt Williams has to be in the Illuminati. How do you get in 60 movies and they hate your guts? How do you get hundreds of TV specials and getting all these movie roles and they hate you and they don't like you? How? So you can't just... That's the problem with Hollywood trying to call Hollywood out. Because now you have to explain how you got there. How you are still alive. And you're exposing everything, and you've been exposing everything for years. Now, part of this, and I think this is the Kanye West issue too, is a lot of people have just said that Katt Williams is crazy. He's on drugs, he's crazy, you don't gotta listen to him, don't pay attention to him. And that's how he's gotten along so far. And I think Kanye West has a lot of the same things. Like you have to ask that question. Like when you say a bunch of people are all in vogue or in the inner circle or whatever. If you in there with them, if you were on the auction block with Ludacris, there was something where everybody thought, well, we're going to bring you on in. Otherwise, they'd ended your career. You could have been like Eddie Griffin. You could be somebody that people kind of remember, but don't really, I don't really remember him. And then you ask the question, where does talent get you? How far does talent really go? And that becomes a very interesting question. Because how far does talent actually take you? Before you start, you need that cosign to go to the next level. How far can you really go? On your own, through sweat and hard work, etc., etc. But then you need to get that extra boost to go from here to here, to go from B to B plus. How do you get there? How do you go from C level celebrity to B plus celebrity to A plus celebrity? What does it take for you to get there? And I think part of it is accepting and being a soundboard for the message. And a lot of that, I think, will take you to the next level. Now, either you're heartless when you enter and start speaking the message. Either you're heartless, you just want to take the money, or you truly believe it. And I'm one of those people that I look and I say, almost overnight, we see people go from folks that we barely know to being like super celebrities. Now, I do believe in the old Talib Kweli saying where it says it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. Talib Kweli said that, and I believe it. There's some very talented people out there grinding, and they can only get so far. Maybe they don't know anybody. Maybe they don't got any connections. And that's really when you start learning people's stories. That's where you find out, yes, that's the connection, the Hollywood connection, or whatever the case may be. And I was learning about this when I was reading Jay Dilla's book, because I always wondered, how the hell did a guy from Conant Gardens make it as far as he did? And I was like, well, he had to have some kind of connection. Who was his connection? And I found out it was Q-Tip from A Tribe Called Quest. And I was like, okay, that explains it. He was inspired by Q-Tip. He started by initially imitating Q-Tip, and then he developed his own style, and Q-Tip became a fan. And then they formed the and from there, JD starts to grow out on his own, etc., etc. But what about other people? Where you're from buttfuck Iowa, how do you become some Hollywood starlet or something like that? How does that come to be? And people say, well, the only way possible is for you to lay down for some Harvey Weinstein type character. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Maybe your talent gets your foot in the door. Maybe your talent keeps getting your foot in the door. But for you to get to the next level, you've got to know somebody. And that's why I say I think everything we got ends up being in the patronage system. The university system is the exact same way. You see it all with professors, and they get their favorite student, their best student, they'll get them a teaching position. You'll become a TA you're one of the biggest idiots of all time. And you'll get a teaching position. Like that chick from Harvard who just got booted out, right? How did she get there? She plagiarized her thesis. How did she get there? She knew people. She knew what was going on. She brown-nosed. She played the game. That's how she got there. That's how she got there. Everybody who gets to that level, they have people like that. And this is why we make fun of people like Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris went from being, Montel Williams' girlfriend to having sex with, I think the guy was the mayor of San Francisco. So all of a sudden, she's an elected politician herself. Wow. That's a situation where she did actually use sex to get her job. But some people don't. Some people don't. And you'll probably never find out what they did because they're really good at hiding it. Or a situation where it's under lock and key. Maybe the people who do know have been bumped off or paid off. The silver or lead situation. You know what I'm saying? But I do believe that they're in the Illuminati. I believe in secret societies, absolutely. So I believe they worship the devil and all that kind of stuff. I believe some of them do. But I don't believe it's all sex and Diddy parties. I think sometimes you're asked to do things you don't necessarily want to do, but you feel like, I need to do this to be successful. And I do believe that some people fail, or some people, they don't reach the level of their potential due to their own personal issues. I don't believe it necessarily is always that that there are people who hold you back due to, you not sleeping with the Harvey Weinstein kind of guy. But, maybe you did get a little, let it get to your head. I remember I saw along with the clip of Katt Williams talking about Kevin Hart was the reverse, the Breakfast Club clip of Kevin Hart talking about Katt Williams. And I believe that the truth is somewhere in the middle. I believe that Katt Williams did ruin a lot of his own career with drugs and other issues. I know he said that he never did drugs, but come on, you gotta be serious. That nigga doing drugs, clearly. So, and some of the situations that he found himself in, it was pretty obvious that he had to be on something, But I don't think it matters, because I think a lot of them do drugs. A lot of them snort coke and pop pills and all this kind of stuff. He wouldn't be the only one. But I do believe that when Kevin Hart went on the Breakfast Club and said that he was basically a liability to the studios, I believe that might be true. I also believe that Kevin Hart was a good Negro and do whatever people tell him to do, just like Katt Williams said. I believe that too. I mean, I don't think it's an either or situation. That's a false binary. I believe that the truth is They each know how the other one made it. Both of them are saying, look, Kevin Hart is funny. Katt Williams is kind of funny. But, Kevin Hart grinded, worked a little bit harder. It has a little bit more of a clean image. I know he's got some DUIs and stuff like that, but for the most part, he's got a pretty Disney image. People trust the visual of Katt Williams. Not Katt Williams, but of Kevin Hart. He can do family friendly stuff. He's safe. He's a safe option. What Will Smith was for a long time, what The Rock was for a long time. He's a safe option. They love their safe Negroes, and I ain't got no problem with that. I'm not upset with Hollywood having safe Negroes that they like Kevin Hart and Will Smith and The Rock, and I'm pretty sure you could think of some other ones. I'm cool with that, because Kevin Hart, outside of doing some weird stuff like dresses and making excuses for wearing dresses and stuff like this, I don't really have a problem with him. Hollywood's going to have their safe Negroes. The issue that I got is when everybody starts acting like the only reason I'm here is because I work hard. It's like, yeah, work hard gets you in the position. It absolutely does. And work hard can keep you in that position. But to go from one level to the next, you did something. You helped somebody. You did somebody a favor. Even if it was just putting on the dress. Maybe that was a test. Maybe it wasn't that you had to have sex with somebody. Maybe you had to humiliate yourself. Maybe you had to be part of that humiliation ritual. And I believe that's real too. Whether it's some kind of fear factor, here, eat this spider, or some nonsense, I do believe that people have to go through a sort of ritual of humbling yourself. Humbling yourself before your patron. And some of it might be sex. I think some of it might be that you give your patron 45%, some unreasonable amount of money to your managers or your agents or something like that. And a lot of people, you don't know this, but a lot of people, like when they sign record contracts and stuff like that, the record label will give them an agent. Record label will give them a manager. And you shouldn't get the manager or the agent from your record company because they probably work for the record company, right? But it might be the benefit of this person is somebody that the record label can control, that somebody that the record label is comfortable with, And even though you might get pennies on the dollar for album sales or whatever, they'll put you in other positions to be in movies, to be in TV shows, to have your own brand of lipstick or whatever. And then ultimately, you will grow from there. So maybe you don't make any money now, but you make money later. Jay-Z is a really good one. Jay-Z don't own the rights to Reasonable Doubt. At least he don't. I don't think he still has it. Right? So Jay-Z owned his own masters, but he didn't own Reasonable Doubt. That was owned by, I believe, Dame Dash. So Dame Dash was sort of his foot in the door. Right? Dame was the one doing all the deals. Dame was talking to everybody. Dame had the connections. Dame was the front man. And then it got to the point where Dame got on everybody's nerve. And they was like, Jay, snake Dame real quick. Stab him in the back. And he did it. And now Jay-Z has whatever he wants. He can get it. He's not even a phone call away. People will call and offer him stuff that he don't really even want anymore. But it took for him to stab Dame Dash in the back. Now, he was already rich, but he wasn't as rich as he will become. Like, and when people talk about like these Hollywood sacrifices, like you have to understand, it doesn't always have to be literal. You don't always have to kill somebody. Maybe you can betray somebody. You could dump that boyfriend that supported you while you were doing your career or whatever. I think Kanye West went through this. He had a girlfriend when he got on, right? And then he dumped her and started dating models and all this kind of stuff, right? It's not just access to better women, because they're not really better women, quote unquote. It's more or less, that's not the kind of person we want in this circle. We don't want too many average people in these circles. So you have to be on the outside. That person, you have to leave them behind. They're a part of your old life. That's why I'm always surprised when I see somebody like Ice Cube or somebody like Snoop Dogg, and they've been married for, I don't know, my entire lifetime. 30, 40 years or whatever. And you're like, you was up here rapping about bitches and hoes this entire time you was married the whole time? Huh. That's weird. Because usually rappers that went through 2, 3 baby mamas, I ain't hearing nothing about Snoop Dogg having outside kids. He was banging groupies. He ain't got no outside kids. Not one. Interesting. Same thing with Jay-Z. Again, when you're in that position, it's very weird how, the things that the average Joe goes through, you don't have to go through. Huh. And you got money. So maybe you did knock up that stripper. But you also got $400,000 to tell her to go away. Abort that baby and go on about your business. She'll do it. No problem. No problem. And she does it. That's why I believe there is some kind of fixer out there who will negotiate abortions for you, find you male prostitutes if that's what you into, all this kind of stuff. Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe that stuff. Did I know that Ghostface had a gay son? I did not know that. Whoa. I bet that's weird. I bet that's a weird one. Kevin Hart got his start in Paper Soldiers with Benny Siegel and Stacey Dash. Oh, yeah, he's from Philly, right? The bass player who toured with A Tribe Called Quest recommended JD. Yeah. I forgot how the tape got to Q-Tip, but yeah, you're I think that's right. Also, what's the name? Also used to listen to JD very early. Questlove from The Roots. JS said there's a video of Kelly Clarkson and Kevin Hart. She mentioned that they offered her a lot of money to do something she didn't want to do, and Hart shushed her. Yeah, I mean, that's what they do. The thing is not always sex. It's just they offer the incentive. And if you tell them no, and that you're not interested, or whatever the case may be, then you're not trustworthy. That doesn't mean they won't double back and offer you something else, but that can stunt your growth. And I've sat here and we've all sat here and watched people who seem to have it all, and then it vanished. Why do you think that certain people are far more damaged by having the same issues as other people? And you see, I think rape accusations is probably the top one. Sexual assault accusations, especially when it comes to men. That some guys could be accused of sexual assault, and it damages their reputation a little bit, but it doesn't really kill it. Other people have actually been found guilty or whatever of sexual assault or whatever, and their career is not exactly over. It's not exactly dead. But then you have incredibly weird things like Kevin Spacey, where almost all the witnesses ended up dying in car accidents and drug overdoses, and they drowned in shallow water, and they slipped and fell in the shower and choked themselves. They got shot. They committed suicide by shooting themselves in the back of the head twice, and all this other ridiculous stuff, right? And you're like, wait a minute, wait a minute, how'd that happen? What happened there? The the Kevin Spacey thing is very over the top. It's very over the top. That's the one thing that makes me believe that the cabal exists for real. How all the witnesses end up dying. So I definitely believe that Katt Williams, he was on to something. I mean, clearly we know that he was telling the truth about some of his contemporaries, like Cedric the Entertainer, who I didn't think was funny anyway, about him stealing jokes. That stuff was blatant, and even people on Twitter could see it. Once it was pointed out to them, they could see it. About Steve Harvey and him stealing stuff from Mark Cooper. I mean, that was obvious once you really. I'm not really a big fan of Steve Harvey either, or Mark Cooper, but it was obvious. When it's pointed out to you, it's pretty obvious. It was pretty clear that he was right about some of these people, and that they're not as talented as we were led to believe, and stuff like that. And that stuff is true. But when he starts talking about the Illuminati and how all the celebrities have, wives that kind of look the same, who don't do interviews and yada yada yada, I was like, man, who the hell wants to hear from Ludacris's wife? What the hell she got to talk about that I need to hear? I don't care about Kanye West's wife. I don't care what she got to say. I don't even know what she does. Every time I see her titties is out. I don't even understand. What do I want to talk to her about? But I do know When you're inside, they dangle things over your head. And I think Michael Jackson is the most obvious one when it comes to that. As soon as Michael Jackson started talking about Sony, all of a sudden, he's getting accused of sexual assault on children. You're like, wait a minute. All of a sudden, he's a pedo? All of a sudden, huh? And then the insurance company pays it out, not without his permission. They go ahead and pay it out. And now every time you turn around, somebody new is accusing Michael Jackson of molesting their kid because they want some money. And that's just how the game goes. They destroyed him. They tried to destroy him anyway, but they destroyed his reputation. Even people who were supposedly friendly to him, like Oprah, was doing documentaries attacking him. Weird how that turned out, right? A lot of his friends turned on him when it comes to like Michael Jackson and various other people. They have that old Katt Williams. You have an unnatural. What is that? An unnatural commitment to losers. AJ3 says Tyrese and Address and Katt Williams talk about how they emasculate actors. Well, yeah, I mean, we've been talking about that for like 25, 30 years now. Will Smith did an interview where he says that Denzel Washington told him not to do that first movie where he was going to be a gay dude getting butt sexed by a white man. Denzel Washington told him to not do it. But he said, well, I'm not getting any other acting roles. And so he did it. And look how Will Smith turned out. Look how his life turned out. Because he didn't listen to Denzel Washington, and he did the gay movie. Now he's kissing men in movies. His children are completely out of control. His life is spun out of control. He didn't take control. He played the game, and he reaped the awards. But the downside of that is that a lot of what he believed has turned against him. People look at him like he's an absolute cupcake. Now nobody cares that he's Will Smith, worth hundreds of millions of dollars, won awards and all this kind of stuff. People just look at him like he's a simp. And his life is spun out of control because he didn't have authority over his own career from the very beginning. But yeah, we've been talking about men in dresses for a really, really, really long time. Pretty much everybody has talked about it. Remember, I saw a clip of a movie, that Foolish movie, where they were making fun of it. Eddie Griffin was making fun of it, of men in dresses. But I didn't like it even when I was a kid. I was never a fan of it. I never found a movie. I never think men in dresses make things funnier. I never was a big fan of Shanae. I never liked Wanda. I sure as hell didn't like Madea. There was no reason for me to ever watch a Madea movie. There was never any reason for me to watch a Madea movie. Ever. The only time I did watch one, I was with a girl. That was it. And I watched like half of it. And shit, I was like, ugh, this sucks. It's a man in drag. It's not funny. I don't think that's funny. I didn't think Norbit was funny. I didn't think Big Mama's House was funny. I can't tell you a movie where I saw a man in drag and I thought this is hilarious. Mrs. Doubtfire might be the closest one to it because he was wearing a dress for, an interesting reason. But it was still a man in a dress, and I was not interested in that. I've never been interested in the man in dress thing. I never liked it. I never liked it. And what you see also is how so many people are starting to, I hate to use this word, they're starting to quote unquote normalize it. For instance, as soon as Katt Williams started talking about men in dresses, and there's clips of Dave Chappelle talking about, people trying to put him in a dress and how he was against it. Now, here's the weird thing. If you go back and watch that Dave Chappelle clip where he was talking to Oprah about being in a movie with Martin Lawrence and they was trying to put him in a movie, in a dress, listen to the verbiage he used. He would not even be able to say that today. They would have said he was homophobic, he was transphobic. Yeah, the people were laughing when he was on Oprah talking about how they were trying to put him in a dress, and he said no. If he did the same thing today, same exact words, they'd have called him transphobic, homophobic, and they would try to get him canceled. Now, thankfully, Dave Chappelle, his specials or whatever are so successful that typically they can't do that much about it. It's so there's not much you can do about him. You know, oh yeah, Oprah was definitely playing pretend like she didn't know. Like, what are you talking about? But here's the crazy thing. Wesley Snipes was on a hell of a run. He was doing some really good movies. He was doing some good stuff at the time. And then all of a sudden, he did Tu Wan Fu, right? And it was like Wesley Snipes fell in a hole. He fell in a ditch. Like nobody knew where this Negro went. You know, like I know he was doing Spike Lee movies, right? He was doing Spike Lee movies. He was in like Jungle Fever, and he did Mo Better Blues. He was in New Jack City. He did a bunch of other movies too. And then he did Tu Wan Fu with John Leguizamo. And I forget who the white guy they had in the dress. And then it's like he went nowhere for like a year or two. Then he came back with Blade. He was like one of the #1 black actors in the world. Out of nowhere. Like he disappeared and came back with Blade and was one of the best ones ever. And everybody forgot that he wore a dress. As black and ugly as that Negro is, he put on the dress too. And I was like, ooh. Samuel L. Jackson, I don't think he's put on a dress, but he's put on his fair share of lace fronts. He's got some silk presses, but he never wore a dress. Ving Rhames did the gay sex scene in Pulp Fiction. I think he got raped in Pulp Fiction. There are some other things that happened in Hollywood. That's why I say it's not always the butt sex. Sometimes you just gotta interfere with yourself. Ironic, Jonathan wore something feminine on Ebony. He still got caught up with DV, although now the cope is based on Doflamingo. Yeah, Jonathan Majors you're talking about. Yeah. I mean, they were really pushing him hard as being like this super sexy, effeminate guy. And then he must have told somebody no. He must have not wanted to go along with the program because how he get found butt sex. How he get fired from his job for defending himself, for trying to get away from a girl. That's how you know they didn't care and they just wanted to get rid of him. Right? They didn't even give him a fair shake. And I don't even like the dude. But when he got convicted of domestic violence for trying to escape the girl, you know them people was out for him at that point. He didn't get a fair shake at all, but he had pissed off so many of the brothers by being a sissy that people was kind of like, oh well, he deserved it. What can you do? You played the game and you lost. You put on the pink. You did the smoochy with all that kind of crap with Michael B. Jordan. And then you pissed off somebody and they set you up. They gave you a white girlfriend and they set you up. That was it. That's all it took. That's all it took. That was career down the toilet. They put him in position. He was in position. They was about to build the Marvel universe around Jonathan Majors. And they was like, wait a minute. This Negro don't want to do what? I really want him to come out and say what it is they asked him to do that he said no. I really want to know what it is. Because it seemed like he was down for anything. He was even saying all the right stuff. I really want to know what he told them no in terms of that they went ahead and destroyed his life like this. And they didn't even, that's the crazy thing is they didn't wreck him like they wanted to, But they did just enough for Marvel to stop messing with him. Nope, Denzel I don't think he ever did a gay role. I don't think he's ever done any butt sex in movies. He never wore a dress. But you talking about Denzel, man, that guy was in his mid-30s and the 90s. Like he's a little bit of an older guy. The older actors, I don't believe like a lot of them went into that kind of situation and was like get that kind of what's the word I'm looking for? That kind of treatment, let's say. So I'm not sure how we got here with Denzel, but Denzel has, he. It was interesting that he always said, like, on the sly, he always calls like black actors and gives them career advice, but he never comes out in public and does what like various other people have done and talked about like race. Like he'll do it if he's asked, but he don't virtue signal, and he'll give both sides. That's one thing I love about Denzel Washington is he's race conscious, or he's conscious of it. He knows it. He's not going to completely and totally uber conservative say that race don't exist or race is not relevant, but he will tell the truth. He will say, well, he thinks he was talking about directing, and he says that cultural elements are important in directing. And when he's asked about police brutality or something like that, and he said it begins in the home, which shocked everybody, and they started calling him an Uncle Tom. But he has so much respect that it didn't really go very far. It didn't go very far. And he's a family man, so they're not about to jam him up and be like he's having all these affairs and all this kind of crap. But usually, when it comes to these super powerful men like these guys, a lot of their dirty laundry don't come out until after they're dead or until they're about to die. Then that's when you find out they used to beat their wife. That's when you find out they had outside kids. That's when you find out all this negative shit. In today's social media world, they're incentivized to drum up business. So now people are willing to sell this stuff to TMZ. And there is a time where the National Enquirer and stuff like Obama having a gay lover or something like that wouldn't make it beyond that paper. There's no way people would have bought, oh, Barack Obama has a gay lover. That stuff would have been on the cover of the National Enquirer in 1994, and nobody would have taken it seriously. Now, you got large groups of people who believe that Barack Obama had a gay lover, and I'll just look at them like, I don't even like Obama, but come on, man. Like, there's large swaths of people who believe that Michelle Obama is really a man, and I'm just like, oof. Like, I'm not that much of a conspiracy theorist, all right? I think that if he was gay, it'd be more beneficial for his career than if he wasn't. So I'm one of those people like, nah, because that would have been the first thing in the heart is like, he's a black man and he's gay and his wife is trans. They'd have talked about that. As much as they throw in awards or whatever at trannies, and you trying to tell me that Michelle Obama is one and they're not going to go ahead and out that? Come on. No way. I'm surprised the kids aren't trans, though. Michelle Obama is built like a linebacker, but they file say she's a man. See, the only thing about this whole thing is I literally watched a documentary by Dave Zirin. It was on PBS. It was a long time ago. And Dave Zirin is an absolute woke idiot. I mean, he is what he is. But he was absolutely true. It was a fact when he told the story of black female athletes always being called masculine. Especially when they would say like people they were men or whatever. And then you hear like Serena Williams and Venus Williams. They talk about that. And you've seen a lot of the racers and stuff talk about that. I think it's like Jackie Joyner-Kersee and all these women, basically track stars. And then you see in the WNBA, they get that a lot. And you see a lot of muscular black women. They get that. You're built like a man. It's like, well, she's an athlete. Of course she's going to be kind of jacked. She hits the gym. Of course she's going to be jacked. She's not going to be super feminine. She's not going to be built like, what was that character? Jessica Rabbit. She's not going to be built like Jessica Rabbit if she has to hit the gym to play sports. Like it's just not going to happen. But that's the only thing that kind of put things into perspective for me when it comes to people like Michelle Obama, who seem to be, sturdy, let's say, when it comes to their body. And the idea that I've never seen a picture of Michelle Obama pregnant. Knowing that women love pictures of, baby bumps and stuff like that. And the Obamas have none? Interesting. But I don't believe she's a man. I don't believe that. So I'm not going to go that far. People are crazy, I'll tell you that much. Did you see the Shea Butter crew getting mad at Simone Biles for standing by her man and calling them out for being better? That whole thing was so ridiculous. I think her husband is a football player who didn't watch the Olympics or anything like that, so he didn't know who she was. And because he's a football player, he makes more money than she does. People are like, she won so many gold medals. Like, nobody cares about that crap. She's like, she does like gymnastics. This dude's in the NFL. Are you kidding me? He makes hundreds of millions of dollars. There's no way. He's focused on his career. He don't know. But yeah, a lot of people got really upset that he felt like he was the catch in that relationship because he's a football player. He's got money. She's a top level athlete too, but she's not in the NFL. And notoriously, the Olympics don't pay shit, and they make you pay taxes on your awards. So there you go. They don't got no fucking money. They're athletes. Denzel and Morgan Freeman are only two true black actors who never have to bend over to get big roles, then demoralize them. But here's the weird thing about Morgan Freeman is he'll never give him any credit because when he came out and he said that he doesn't celebrate Black History Month, and he said something else that was like super conservative, and it's always those guys, right? Like the guys who didn't put on the dress, the guys who don't go through all that crap. They're the least sensitive, the least fragile when it comes to this kind of garbage that you see going on in the media, and probably the more likely to have faced like real racism too. Like Morgan Freeman is there's some really old buildings out here in this city, so this Morgan Freeman's probably old as the Fisher Building or something like that. He's probably like 90 some odd years old. He probably faced like some real serious racism, and he doesn't really go through all this race garbage. So I don't know. What was this? They always make them sacrifice family members to get enormous. To a degree, but I think that when people say sacrifice, they always think of kill. I think sometimes you cut off family members. I think sometimes, and I do believe that when you are in those circles, they decide who your friend group is. They decide your dating pool. And that's how you get all these people who look the same, all these people who talk the same, is because you get to a certain level. You don't take people with you. You don't take people who certainly not people who talk too much. They're certainly not coming along for the ride. And you have to be able to control them too. They have to not. That's the thing. The control has to be complete. It can't just be we are in control of you. We have to be in control of your friend group. So we have to know who your friends are, whether they come in and go in. This is why, the NDA culture that has infested pro wrestling is not that much of a surprise to me, because I'm sure Hollywood has the same thing. I'm almost certain that to be somebody's personal chef, to be somebody's personal nanny, to be somebody's gardener or whatever, you have to sign an NDA, especially if you're dealing with them and they're working Hollywood. They don't want you gossiping about what's in their house or what's going on in their house or what you may or may not have seen, because we know that these people, it will come back and bite them, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was banging his gardener or banging his nanny or something like that, and ended up having a son who looked just like him. Little Hispanic Arnaldo, all right, looks just like him. But of course they're going to sign NDAs. You want that job, you're a poor day laborer, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is willing to give you a job. Okay, I'm sure he might have to catch the pipe a couple of times, but hell, he's a multimillionaire. You want that anyway, right? Press Noctis says it's interesting because Disney owns Good Morning America and Jonathan Majors is appearing on there. Interesting indeed. People are fake because no one really celebrated Black History Month before. We just wrote book reports for school. Yeah, it was the same thing with Juneteenth and all these other phony things that people bring up. Look, I'm not saying that they're not culturally important, just that a lot of the fervor around them is fake and bullshit. And if nobody ever made it a race fight, nobody would really care about it. If a white man never celebrated Juneteenth, it wouldn't affect my life one way or the other. If you don't know what it is, it doesn't affect my life one way or the other. Just like Me, if I don't know anything about the Roman Empire, it doesn't affect the white man at all. Like the fact that we get into those arguments is really ridiculous. Like it's really ridiculous. And the oddball thing is, people take that stuff so seriously. Like I was talking to this chick, and she would be like, "Don't you think that it's offensive that white people don't know nothing about Black history?" I'm like, no, they're white. What do they? What do you know that they need to know that's going to affect their life positively in any way? Should they know about certain organizations or something like that? I mean, it wouldn't hurt them, but not knowing that is not going to hurt me, and it's not going to hurt you. Doesn't actually hurt anybody, you know. So I'm just kind of saying, like, I don't really care if a white man don't celebrate Black history. I don't give a shit. There's parts of white history I don't want to know. Like they trying to teach LGBT history and all that kind of crap. I don't need to know that. What do I need to know that for? I don't need to know that. That's part I will leave out. The feminist women's rights history. I don't need to know that crap. History of trade unions. I don't know that much about that. I don't care. It's saying that I need to know about every single event in American history. For starters, there are too many major events. There are inventions that I don't know anything about that I would love to know about, at least a little bit, like the invention of the airplane or the automobile or something like that, something that really changed the world. You mad that they don't know anything about Marcus Garvey? What the fuck do you know about Marcus Garvey for? Is he a great figure? Yes. It would be excellent if white people were curious enough to go and read about Marcus Garvey, but it ain't going to make or break their experience in the United States to not know about Marcus Garvey. It's like it don't make or break my experience to not know about Marcus Garvey. It's not like, actually something's going to change in my life because I found out about this, this interesting character. I do love the extra day off when it comes to Juneteenth. That's pretty cool. That's all I care about when it comes to most holidays anyway. Morgan Freeman said stop racism, to stop talking about it, but he got hit with a Me Too for flirting with a reporter. I didn't know that. It didn't really stop his career, did it? It didn't really stop him that much. But I want to give you another example of a guy who changed a lot. Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's an interesting case. He's a really interesting case. Because if you go and you look at interviews from Neil deGrasse Tyson before he blew up, he doesn't talk about race. And he will openly say, I don't talk about race. I'm an astrophysicist. I want to talk about science. Now, recently, I've seen him arguing with people about trans issues. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're an astrophysicist. You should argue with people about, like, the moon and Pluto. Why are you arguing about gender ideology, Neil deGrasse Tyson? Well, in between time, he had a TV show. It was based off of Carl Sagan's show. It was called, I think, Origins, right? Cosmos is what it was called. It was called Cosmos. And that's when they told him he was fat and he had to lose weight. And he went on that diet and he started trying to really lose weight. He had a podcast called Star Talk. It was very popular. And then out of nowhere on Star Talk, they brought on a trans activist to talk about transgenderism. And that was really when I was like, wait a minute. Now, sometimes they do go off topic and they don't just talk about merely the moon and the stars, and because that stuff can get kind of boring. So they switched it up and they brought in this. And I'm thinking, okay, this man is a man of science. He's certainly going to ask some questions about how a person can go from one thing to another. Nope, he just sat there and accepted it and regurgitated it and has been arguing with people about it ever since. Like, this was a guy who, before he became super famous, did not even talk about race. Now he not only talks about race, but he talks about race, he talks about gender, he talks about politics. I'm like, wait a minute. What happened here? Well, he got Me Too'd. That's what happened. He got a TV show. They put some money in his pocket. And then he got Me Too'd. And now he's got to play the game to get back in their good graces. I'm not a fool, man. I pay attention. See, a lot of these people don't pay attention to this kind of stuff, but I pay attention. I don't always mention it, but I pay attention. I be seeing it. I be knowing. I be knowing. Octopus with no friends Says black versus white, left versus right. That leaves them rich and in control. Yeah, and you end up arguing about dumb shit. And I say, like, man, you guys don't understand how much time you spend on dumb shit. There was a debate recently. I think it was Destiny and Alex Jones. I think it was yesterday. When they were just arguing, it seemed like I was entertained for about 5 or 10 minutes. And then I was like, wait a minute, where is this going? Like really, where is this going? I don't think we're getting anything out of this. So I turned it off. And then I watched another debate. It was one that Royce White had posted on his site. It was David Frum versus Steve Bannon. And I found that to be far more interesting because it was Republicans arguing amongst themselves about what's the best route. And Steve Bannon is talking about, American populism and MAGA and all this kind of stuff. And David Frum is talking about, the traditional, American, quote unquote, liberalism, which is the real version of conservatism, all that dumb shit. And when you get to what David Frum is talking about, he's talking about, they're splitting the people, they're pitting the people against the people, and saying some people are yada yada yada. And it's like, well, that's what the leftists are doing. Everything about them is split between race, gender, or whatever. They have created the simplest way to analyze any situation. If it's a white man talking, you could disagree. You could completely disagree with it because he's white. You don't have to listen to anything he says beyond that. If it's a man talking, he's talking about a woman's issue, you could completely disagree with it because it's a man. He's talking about women's issues. You could completely disregard. They don't debate. They teach people to make snap judgments. If you're talking about something we don't like, we will shout you down. We will shut you up. And we're going to kill you with sound bites. Something that needs, a little bit more time to explain. We're going to shut it down because you need to be able to say in a sentence why this is the case. And they can just explain the entirety of everything with racism. There was a video floating around on Twitter. It was a dilapidated Detroit. And it was a black man who was talking about how bad off Detroit was. And he sounded like he was a Detroiter. And it was posted by I forget what the name of the account was, but the account is like anti-woke or whatever. And there was a bunch of people, this guy is a racist. The guy who runs the account. This guy is a racist. So like, well, are you going to deal with what he said? And then the only thing you say is, well, Detroit is the victim of racism, 40 years of racism or whatever, 50 years, 60 years of racism and de-investment and all this kind of stuff. And then you started getting the followers of what Chicken Lips, Buck Breaking, Tariq Nasheed, the ADOS guys, saying we didn't write the city charter, so we're not in control of Detroit. Like, man, what are you talking about? Detroit has had one white mayor in 40 years, 50 years. And most of them have been black and Democrats. And they have absolutely ruined the city. But you're like, well, black people didn't write the city charter now. We may be the majority of the city council. We may be the mayor. We may run every institution like the school board. But my brother, we didn't write the city charter. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? That's what you're saying. These people are retards. And that's the best you can do is just say they're retards. Because they find it's a literal point to the nearest white man. It's literally that simple. They don't have to think about anything. They don't have to intellectually break anything down. It's single variable racism, and that's what it is. They don't ask nothing else. They don't think about nothing else. Whenever you have super complex issues, like why these things are so bad. My stream popping. Let me turn my mic off. I'll turn my mic off now. Okay. Whenever you have these issues, people will absolutely, positively find the nearest person to blame. They don't take responsibility for anything. And that's really why I got with the Katt Williams thing, and just to double back to that, he didn't take any responsibility for his career not getting to the point where he wanted it to be. It was always the Illuminati chose Ludacris over me. The Illuminati chose Kevin Hart over me. The Illuminati did this. The Illuminati did that. Like, okay, well, did the Illuminati have you get wrestled to the ground by some teenage boy? Is that what happened? Because that's nonsense. I saw that and I was embarrassed. That shit don't happen to normal people. I can tell you that. Somebody getting beat up like some teenage boy. You was in the middle of something when that happened, right? That's not good. But octopus with no friends. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I want. I want things to go further because everything worth knowing is multivariable. The American cities don't fall apart because of one thing. Even if you want to say there were some racist policies that occurred, all right, but there was also some national, state policies, et cetera, that led to Detroit being the way that it is. It's not always the city council and the mayor, but that's where all this stuff starts. It starts with our school board, who is educating our children that they don't understand when they go and vote the people that they're voting for, right? You have to take this thing to the next level, and what you just keep getting, you keep hitting that wall where everybody just starts talking about fucking racism. You never can get off the ground when it comes to that stuff. A lot of these Negroes, man, they stuck in 1968. You know, that's literally when like a lot of black politicians and everything just peaked. 1968. Now everybody thinks they're Martin Luther King. Everybody want to be a part of some non-profit organization that's supposed to help black people. They don't ask where any of that money goes. Hundreds of millions of dollars given to Black Lives Matter. They ain't built not one school. They ain't built not one hospital. They ain't built a motherfucking thing, a tech center. They ain't built nothing that people can actually use. They gave it to a bunch of civil rights attorneys and themselves. And that money is gone. The NAACP is in the middle of every major city in the United States. And it's surrounded by poverty. Every single one. They ain't start a job center. They ain't start a hospital. They ain't start a school. They ain't start nothing. So we need to stop talking about race. It's about people who do nothing but sap energy, sap intellectualism out of our cities. They have destroyed us, man. It's not even about them. It's about us. We need to smarten up and say, look, man, the NAACP is 100 years old. We don't really have 100-year-old problems. Not right now. Our problems in my city is that 5% of the children read at appropriate reading levels. That's a problem. How are you going to bring jobs into this city and the kids can't read? Amazon won't even let them stack boxes because they think they're functionally retarded. How can you invest in this city? How can you invest in this city when the crime rate is so high? The crime rate is so high, especially car theft, that you have people who live in the city, but they will have an address in Southfield, or they'll have an address in Grosse Pointe. And these are suburbs, by the way, so they can have lower car insurance. How can you have investment in this city when you're saying that smash and grabs are fine? When you're what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you saying? Oh, it's racism, dog. Hey, racism, huh? That's just plain old racism, huh? Okay, sure. Hey, retarded. It's that simple, bro. It's one thing to be naive, and some people are naive. But most people are just plain retarded. And they're retarded because they went to college. And that's the worst thing about it. A lot of the retards actually went to college. They wouldn't be so stupid if they didn't go to college. Because some people are Thinking you sitting around here, and I say like a lot of this stuff is not really worth arguing. I refuse to have the trans debate. There's no debate about whether men could get pregnant or not. There's no debate to be had. What is a debate? Everybody who believes that shit today didn't believe it 10 years ago. Nobody believed it 15 years ago. Nobody believed it 20 years ago. Nobody believed it 25 years ago, 50 years ago. Now people believe that men could get pregnant. It's not worth discussion. All right? It's just mud. It's intellectual mud. It's a trap for you to get into, and you'll be arguing about that shit for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. You'll never get anywhere. And I learned that, I've listened to enough trans debates that I learned that you never get anywhere with those things. Never. You keep getting into the argument about what gender means. And gender is whatever I say gender is. So there's no definition to it. It don't mean anything. But they still want you to argue about it. They say it don't matter. They say it don't mean anything. But you still end up arguing about it. It's intractable. You don't go anywhere. Race is the same way. They say race isn't real. You're a racist if you say race is real. But yet everything that ever happened is because of race. And everything that will ever happen forever in the future is because of race. And you can't argue with these people. There is no moving forward. You got to move forward. And it's goofy, man. I think the January 6th thing is becoming the same way. It's becoming a subject that you can't get no forward motion on. Because you keep arguing about whether it's an insurrection or not. And this is what happens when the left controls the debate. They always control what something is called. Like, it doesn't even fit the literal definition of an insurrection. There was nobody who was armed. There was nobody taken captive. There was nobody even in the buildings when they broke into the buildings. It was certainly a riot. That much is true. A couple of people died, but nobody died because of violence. The left claims they hate tear gas, they hate bear spray, they hate all these things that force the crowds to break up, but none of them said anything about all the tear gas and bear spray and batons and everything being fired on people. January 6th, they say nothing. They say nothing. So you're not going anywhere. It's not going to be an argument. You can't have an argument with people who don't have solid viewpoints. The point of the debate, this is what the problem with, the thing about it, have a debate between Ben Shapiro and Destiny. I'm like, they're not going to say anything. Because they're going to argue about the same shit over and over again. It's dumb. It's time to take it to the next level. The progressives, they don't define terms. Or they define terms in ways that is preferable to them. I always say that they speak like magic spells. Abracadabra. What it means to you and what it means to them is two different things. Right? You look at abracadabra like it's nonsense. Like that's not even a word. It doesn't mean anything. But to them it can mean anything. And when they sit down and they write and they talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, they're not talking to you. Because you don't speak the language. It's no different than if you were speaking Spanish in front of me. If you were speaking Spanish to your homeboy, y'all having a conversation that you don't want me to hear. A lot of college students and their teachers, they're doing the same thing. They use words like diversity, equity, and inclusion out of context with no real definition because they're not talking to you. They're talking to each other. They're talking in code to one another. That's why you got James Lindsay up here trying to decode everything that they're saying, which is nice, thanks. But it's not stopping them. It's not stopping anything they do. I'm going to tell you what this word really means in their lexicon. Great, thanks. It's not stopping them from doing this, from destroying the fucking world, okay? It's not doing nothing. It's not doing nothing. You're stuck in the mud. And at some point, some people have to realize that you're stuck in the mud. And the mud is constantly redefining terms again and again. There's no forward motion on this debate at all. You constantly have to back up to redefine terms or to clarify terms, or you're being accused of stuff, so now you have to back up to defend yourself from all these types of things. You're stuck in the mud. You're never going to get anywhere. You're dead in the water. And nobody listens to you after a while. That's how they kill a lot of people who have really good ideas, and they may seem really smart. If they'll get you stuck in a rut, you get to talking about feminism for 3 or 4 years, and people get sick of it, and they turn away because I'm tired of hearing about feminists. I think somebody was debating feminism the other day, and I was like, bro, this is a very 2016 argument you're having here. You're arguing about feminism in 2023 on the internet? Please. You in the mud, bro. You're dead in the water. Get over it. I don't care about feminism anymore. I don't care about the trans issue. I don't care about race stuff. I don't care. That stuff is old hat. It's a way of distracting you. So you want to talk about real shit, you know? Like how they about to make houses unaffordable. When I say, I'm gonna say avoidable, but unaffordable. You know, they trying to control your cities to create these 15-minute cities. Where they're basically be jail cells. They used to be large projects. I talked about that on here before, and I think that Alex Jones mentioned it. They're gonna turn them into project. They're gonna turn your neighborhood into a project, and they think that's what you want. You're gonna be living in shipping containers that they're gonna put light fixtures in, eating bugs. They're gonna get rid of you. They're gonna take all your meat away. It's gonna be very bad, and you can still be arguing about racism and feminism. It's dumb. They're just dumb at that point, bro. You're behind the times. They speak in a different language. They're talking to each other. You're not even catching on. They talking about some one world government shit. Literally. I mean, literally. They talking about the UN, like the UN has some kind of authority or power. They talking about NATO like it matters. We should be trying to get out of NATO. We should be trying to get away from the UN. We want nothing near a world war government. One world government. But whatever. That's my conspiracy theories. Octopus friends, I feel like a woman, but I was born a male. What is a male? Define male. Right. Interesting thing. I'm going to pivot away to this documentary. My girlfriend asked me to watch. It's a documentary on a cult called Twin Flames. The Twin Flames was the stupidest cult I've ever seen. It was a really stupid cult. It was an online cult that was about having people meet their significant others, which they called their twin flame, which basically means like their what's the word I'm looking for? It was like they had, oh my goodness, I forget. What's the word I'm looking for? It's where you believe that you have your one person that you're meant to be with your entire life. Soulmate. Yeah, there you go. Andrew Buckley, soulmate. So basically, the twin flames basically that you're supposed to meet your soulmate, and your soulmate is the one person you're supposed to be with for your entire life. And it started out that way, and it turned into this multi-level marketing pyramid scheme cult. But it's basically like 90% online. I'm like, you can't turn your computer off, but whatever. We're in a situation where they created this this system where once people were not getting married, and they were, talking people into basically stalking other folks, saying that this person is your soulmate, your twin flame. You're never supposed to stop, pursuing your twin flame. And your twin flame is out there. You just have to get them. And this woman, basically, woman, I put it in quotations because I don't believe that was a real woman, was basically stalking a guy that she believes was her twin flame, because she kept being told, like, you have to, pursue this. This is your twin flame. This is the person you're supposed to be with. This guy didn't want anything to do with her. She kept calling him. He got a restraining order on her. And the people online is telling her, like, you know, you have to go beyond this. You have to break all these barriers. He's your twin flame, is where you were meant to be. And then she got thrown in jail for stalking this guy. I thought that was like the funniest shit in the world. I'm like, how are you so dumb that you let a voice and a face online get you thrown in jail for stalking? You're an idiot. But the interesting thing about that is when once the thing started to fall apart, and this is almost always the case with cults, is once the twin flame issue wasn't really working out for some people, they switched it, and then like they were talking about the divine masculine and the divine feminine. The divine masculine and the divine feminine. I have to my lisp. And which is like old hat subjects. you could find books on both of them. Feminists believe in divine masculine, divine feminine, yada yada yada. Anyway, the twin flame leaders were talking about this thing. And because it wasn't working out for everybody, they had to decide to pivot. So they decided that, okay, well, some people are gay, and so you could be the divine masculine, but be female, and you're basically a stud, and your divine feminine is out there. So they started telling people who like weren't gay that they were, and then talking them into being trans. So it was one chick who went and had top surgery, started taking medicine, a whole 9 yards, because she was told she was a divine masculine in this trans relationship. And I was just sitting there looking like, and of course, there was a guy on there who was talking about this stuff isn't mainstream amongst trans activists. This is power. This is control. I'm like, you took a person who did not believe that they were trans at any point in their life. You introduced them to this concept by telling them that due to their behaviors and what they're looking for, yada, 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 that they might be the divine masculine in this relationship, and therefore they should probably transition. And then they did it. And now you're telling me that's not how it works? We literally seen that happen in children. When they go to like psychologists and stuff, and they say, well, have you thought about being trans? That you might be trans? And then all of a sudden they're following through with it. It's almost as if you apply pressure to somebody and you give them an escape hatch, they'll take it. No matter what it is, they'll take it. They don't feel right about what's going on in their lives, and you give them this escape hatch that maybe it's not you, maybe it's God. God made a mistake and put your soul in the wrong body. And you're like, you're right. It's not me. It's God made a mistake. I'm going to fix God's mistake, and I'm going to cut off my penis and start popping pills for the rest of my life. No, probably not. Okay? Probably not. Probably not. But it was a ridiculous cult. Did anybody watch this thing? This twin flames cult thing, man. It was ridiculous. It wasn't as interesting as the other cult video that I watched. That one was far more interesting because it was a real cult. I mean, they lived in the same house. They desexed everybody. I forget what it was called though. Najee Savage says the Katt shit was a distraction. We gotta focus on literacy and interest rates. Instead of New York City, literacy rate is horrible and you can't live without multiple jobs. Absolutely. You know, and it's becoming like that everywhere. And New York City is crowded. It's already been crowded. And it's making it more crowded because they're dumping all those illegals up there. I know they're going to start dumping them in Detroit eventually. Our population is falling apart. So I expect Gretchen Whitmer to come out and be like, oh, Detroit would love to have illegal immigrants because we have a Mexican town here in Detroit. A lot of people speak Spanish, billboards in Spanish, whole 9 yards. I expect her to turn around and be like, we could use a bus full of immigrants ourselves, because Detroit used to have like a population of like 1 million. Now it's down to like 300,000 or something like that, teetering. But that's because a lot of the city's been wrecked from poverty and disinvestment and crime and a bunch of other stuff, graft, whatever. You be like, man, I don't know what to tell you, but that was crazy. I really, my main focus, if I was to do something like run for office, which would be like really ridiculous, it would be to focus on literacy. Because what good is people voting if they don't know what they're voting for? They don't know what words mean. They can't read. They can't think, which is even worse than anything. If you're illiterate, you certainly can't think. Or you allow people to control what they think and what they read. That's how you get this idea that, men can get pregnant. Because certain people are controlling what you read. Which is ludicrous. We always thought that it would be like 2 + 2 = 5. It turns out they got people believing that men could get pregnant. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And I truly, as I live and breathe, I swear to God, I think most people don't even really believe that. It's just they say it because they want the rewards that comes with it. They're probably being paid to say it. Their position is dependent on it. And this is why I go to double back what I was talking about when it comes to the Illuminati. I do believe that there are a lot of people who say things that they don't believe. But they say it because it's what they're told to say. It's what they're told to believe. They don't necessarily believe it because none of these people who think that men can be women are dated to trannies. They're not married to trannies. They don't really have tranny kids. Or none of that stuff. But they will act like they really believe it. Hand on their heart. Praise to it. They don't have no attachment to it at all. They say it because if they don't say it, they're going to lose their job. They say it because if they don't say it, they're going to get replaced. That's like Neil deGrasse Tyson, I think that once you get under pressure, he started saying things like, why do you even care? I'm like, what? You're a man of science. Why do you give a fuck about a star that's so far away from here you have to see it through a very special microscope? That thing is not going anywhere, and we don't care about that, all right? We got problems on this planet right here. And you talking about giving money to NASA so we can study the fucking Mars. Fuck Mars right now, okay? I like Mars too. It's interesting. But fuck Mars. Detroit is the shits. Baltimore is the shits. All right? Fuck the moon right now, okay? What did Gil Scott-Heron say? Whitey on the moon? Whitey's on the moon. How that poem go? I don't think y'all hear me. I've probably never heard that Whitey on the moon thing. I'm about to play it for you real quick. This is what I think of ever I see Neil deGrasse Tyson. And he's talking about giving more money to NASA and all this other horse shit. That I'm telling you, when I listen to that thing, that shit changed my motherfucking life. You heard me? Whitey on the moon changed my fucking life. And Gil Scott-Heron is pretty left wing, but that shit changed my life. If you listen to that poem, technically I think it's a song actually, but it's a poem. It's amazing when you think about it. When you break that thing down, it's amazing. And you got Neil deGrasse Tyson ask you, like, why do you care about the gender, blah, blah, blah. I was like, why do you give a fuck about some star on the other side of a different galaxy? Why do you care? Why should I care about that? Why should I pay for you to look through telescopes and tell me about something in the Andromeda galaxy? I don't care about that. They don't feed my kids. They don't feed my brother's kids. It doesn't fix this building across the street that's dilapidated. It doesn't educate anybody. It's interesting. It's a fun pastime. It's basically like a fucking art project. All right? You sat down and you drew a mural. Oh, that's great. Thank you very much for your mural, but how does it help anybody? Right? It's just, that's the world we live in now, man. So many people they want their vanity projects paid for when our kids can't read. They can't do basic math. They want everything for free. I mean, it's an embarrassment, bro. But that's where we live now. JS, do you think the moon landing was real in 1969? Yes, I do believe the moon landing was real. I just think that people expected things from the moon landing that were probably unrealistic. They thought we were going to see aliens. Um, they thought there was going to be jewelry or something up there. There's comets that has gold on them. Like there's comets who've been floating around in our system. They are filled with like gold, emeralds, diamonds, enough to crash the Earth's economy. They're trying to catch them and drill them. That was one of the last things I listened to on Star Talk. Is there were private industries, much like Elon Musk, and he's been going to Mars and all that kind of stuff. There have been private people who have been trying to catch comets and not literally catch them and bring them to Earth, because you can't do that. But like send like satellites or drills over up there to these comets so you can drill and get like gems from them, because it might be whatever kind of stuff that they can get out of there. Only problem is if they do that, you're going to destroy Earth's economy, because there's going to be enough gold and diamonds or whatever in those rocks to plummet whatever that stuff is worth on Earth. And then you'll probably get killed. Or you'll be the richest man that ever lived. One or the other. All right, so you're probably going to get killed, though. So I don't think the beers will like that very much if you decide to crash the diamond market. They'll probably put a bullet in you for that. And everybody will laugh, because we're at that point of our development where if somebody makes too much money, you can kill them and then everybody else will laugh at them. But I do believe that the moon landing happened. And I believe they've been to the moon a couple of times. They've been to other planets. I believe they went to Venus. I don't think human beings did not go to Venus. Let's get that right. I believe they sent robots and things like that to Venus. Shuttles. I've seen those pictures. Some people will say, "How would you know that it's Venus?" I'm like, well, you think they built a warehouse that looked like this, And then that thing is not coming back, by the way, because they can't get it to come back. So I would hope so. It would be an amazing rib if it was, though. Wouldn't it be a hell of a rib if you like, oh yeah, this is the pictures of Venus, and you'd be like, what? You went to Venus for real? And that shuttle ain't coming back. When the battery dies, it's over. It's there. It's stuck. And they're like, yeah, it was a rib. It was really like Mount Vernon. it's like it was somewhere in Thailand. You'd be like, damn, you really got over on me. But I think people expected Star Trek, Doctor Who, for there to be aliens all over the place. And the moment you leave Earth, you're either going to see heaven or aliens, and you didn't see either one of them. So people are like, I don't believe that. And I'm thinking like, man, I wouldn't expect to see heaven or aliens. I certainly don't buy it. I don't think aliens are going to be what we want them to be. And I've really been weirded out by Tucker Carlson going super ham on aliens. I'm just like, man, why does anybody care about aliens? Really. I think there's certain aliens exist. I don't think it's fucking the Badoon up there. I'm not thinking like the Skrulls are all of a sudden going to come to Earth. I think that it's probably weird life forms on other planets, especially planets that have water. And they have like amoebas and probably bugs and stuff like that are alive. Those are technically alien species. Do I think that there's like Vulcans out there. Fuck, they're probably so far away that we're not ever going to reach them if they exist and they're out there. They're probably not in our solar system. You know, it would be interesting though. What do you think would happen if we did have aliens and they were like bipedal aliens? Would they be higher intelligence than we are? I think most people assume that they would be. Most people assume that they would be like some alien kingdom out there who are high tech and super intelligent. And I think it's probably like space apes. Like we're space apes, and there's probably other space apes out there too. They're probably just as dumb as we are. Just as advanced, just as idiotic, still trying to figure out their way around their own home planet. But I also think the most dangerous shit in the universe right now is on this planet right now. There's some shit underneath that ocean. That's on the bottom of that ocean floor. I would not put that on a plate. I would not go anywhere near that stuff. I'm not saying I believe in the Loch Ness Monster or anything like that. But I believe that there is some stuff in them oceans that are dangerous. Alright? Like we've seen like giant catfish in rivers. Okay? Just think of what could be at the bottom of the ocean. Like when those idiots went in that spaceship, not that spaceship, but that submarine, and they got crushed by the pressure of the ocean, which they should have. Everybody should have saw that coming, by the way. But once you get down that far, there's some stuff down there that I don't want to wake up. I don't even want you bringing anything from down there up. Leave whatever you find down there, because it's probably superhuman. Living under all that pressure, my goodness, we can't kill it. If you bring it up, we can't kill it. There's nothing you're going to be able to produce that's going to be able to kill that damn thing. You're going to have to drop a bomb on it or something like that. If it was a monster that comes from underneath the fucking Atlantic Ocean, it'd be like Behemoth or something like that. Bahamut from like Final Fantasy or some shit. No way. Don't fuck around in the ocean. I don't like that idea. Yeah, I do not fuck around with the ocean. I do not want anything to do with the ocean. Nah. Space, I'm actually cool with you going out in space. But the ocean, leave that alone, bro. It's probably some real dangerous shit down there, man. There probably is like some really old monsters down there. I'm serious. Don't fuck around in that ocean. Because it's too deep. You don't know what's down there. And it's too dark. You wouldn't even be able to see it. Like you gonna fuck around and wake up like the 7 deadly dragons or some shit. That shit ain't gonna be right. I don't mess around with the ocean. I tell you that much. Half the shit you pull out of livable space of the ocean is dangerous as hell. Like whales and sea lions and sharks, of course. Or many different kinds of sharks. Sea life is dangerous, bro. Being in the water is dangerous. I can't imagine stuff that live below that. Like, think about the damage a whale can do to a ship. Just one whale. He could wreck. He could pop a hole in a ship with no problem. That thing is like 2,000 pounds. Right? With no problem. Will sink a ship. No problem. And there's something at the bottom of the ocean with all the pressure on top of it, and it's still alive, and it's going to come up. Hell no. No way. I'm good. I'm good. It's probably wearing armor down there, dog. I'm telling you. That thing is nasty. That's like an armor. I think it's like an armored serpent under there, dog, for real. Like, what they call it in Norse mythology? Jogumandar. Fucking a world snake or whatever. They leave that thing alone, bro. Yeah, I wouldn't fuck around with that. I really don't like fucking around in the deserts either. You know, I think there's probably some real dangerous shit out there in them deserts. Daisy Savage says, "What do you think about the Epstein list? Found it funny Trumpers didn't know they were friends, and he died under Trump's administration." A lot of people expected Trump to be on the list. Um, there's pictures of them two together, and plus Trump is rich and hangs in that circle, and for a long time he hung in that circle. I mean, the thing with Trump is most people are just lying to themselves. Trump was a Democrat for most of your life, right? That's just kind of how it was. He was friends with like Jesse Jackson and Oprah Winfrey. It was a time where rappers called him out. There was times where, or shouted him out rather, gave him a big up. There's all kinds of stuff that he probably was involved with in the late 80s and the early 90s and the early 2000s until he started questioning Obama. That's when he became the most hated man on earth. Up to that point, nobody had a problem with Donald Trump. So there's no doubt that he was involved with a lot of shit, probably from 1992, 1986, or whatever the case may be, that he was probably involved with. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was on the list. I'm not surprised anybody from Hollywood is on the list. I truly believe Hollywood is full of pedophiles and weirdos. I just don't think they all do blood sacrifice and they all involve themselves with butt sex. I just do believe that there are a lot of weirdos in Hollywood who will gladly go to an island and eat human brains or engage in excessive gambling or any other kind of debauchery. Ike the Don says, "Why I don't do beaches." The beach is probably not too bad. I mean, you might have some sharks down there. Might have like crabs, turtles, that kind of stuff. Mostly harmless shit. I'm talking about them oceans where ain't no land in either direction for 100 miles or something like that. Bro, you need to leave whatever down there alone. Like legit. And I had the same belief about space for a while too. I was kind of like, man, I don't know why they going to Venus. Like, if something's on Venus, leave it alone, bro. Like, for starters, you're contaminating the planet. And that was always my thing too, is if there are no humans on those planets, you're sending human DNA up there. Because we had to create the machines and we can't bring the machines back. So we send this machine to Mars, and now human DNA is on that planet. You know what I'm saying? Because we created it. Somebody sweat all over this thing or whatever. I'm sure it probably burnt up in the atmosphere or whatever the fuck. But you sent a Martian, a thingamajig from Earth to Mars or to Venus or to Mercury. Probably not Mercury. It's too close to the sun. But to Mars or to Venus, the two closest planets. And you probably contaminated those planets. Who knows what the hell you've done to those planets by contaminating them with human technology? We don't know what the hell you've done. That's why I say, like, you really need to think about things. But at the same time, without exploration, we wouldn't have none of the stuff that we have. And I realized that too and I really hate to diss black people on this, but when you talk to black people, and a lot of them are so afraid of what's on the other side of something, or they'll talk about it like it's a negative. And white people have that adventurous, go get 'em spirit, and you're like, that's crazy, man. Like, the white man wants to know what's in that bush. He wants to know what's in that cave. What's on the other side of that ocean? What's this? It's a land, water. It's a huge water mass here. There's got to be something on the other side of that water. You have so many black people who have this idea that, oh, there's nothing but water this way. Let's turn around and go back. Well, white people are looking at there, standing on the beach like, I wonder if I can cross this gigantic water mass. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. And then they find riches and gold and all this kind of shit, and then you jealous. Because they took the risk of building a thing called a ship and trying to cross these oceans. And then how many people died trying that? We don't think about that. Like, we talk shit about, like, Christopher Columbus and all that. We don't talk about how much of a miracle it was that he was able to cross the ocean so many times without dying. That's a fucking miracle. Considering so many people tried to cross the ocean and got killed, or got attacked by pirates, or got their ships sunk by crazy sea beasts, or storms, or typhoons, or whatever. For them people to be able to cross the ocean that many times, to trade in gold and spices that often, that's a fucking miracle, bro. That's human achievement right there. It's good fortune. JS says, I was a little surprised about Stephen Hawking being on the list. The Hawking memes this week is proof that people are only pretending to care about offending disabled people. I'm not surprised he's on the list. You know, he's a very smart guy, but I'm sure that he was in the club. He's in the club. I'm not surprised about anybody being on the list, really. I can't think of somebody who would be on that list that would surprise me. Literally. I think he's probably the least likely, because it's like, why would you want that deformed guy around? At the same time, though, he's been famous for such a long time and made so much money while being disabled that people would definitely ask the question, like, is he involved in something? And the answer is yes, he is involved in something. Darren Gordon-Hill wants to send NDAs to Venus. I'm sure that somebody will find them up there, I guess. Wall Street Journal will find them. I love space, man. I love space. Space is my favorite. Because I go through fits sometimes where I just want to get a microscope and, not a microscope, but a telescope and look into the sky. I love space. I really do. But then I have those fits like, you know, Whitey on the Moon. I'm like, man, fuck this. This is a waste of time. You know, there's abandoned buildings across the street from my house, like a large vacant lot. It's so much that we can fix down here on the ground that sometimes it is good to look up and say, man, I wonder what's going on up there. I wonder what they got going on Mars. You know. WG Phil says, I can say I'm glad Mike didn't caught up in the match. Yeah. It's interesting that but that goes to what I was talking about with the Illuminati, right? Everybody was expecting Michael Jackson to be on there. Everybody was expecting like R. Kelly. The people that they truly believed are like pedos, you know, and they keep forgetting that there are people above them, all right? But R. Kelly is one of those guys. I think he's a classic case of he was somebody being controlled. The guy can't read or write, but yet was the mastermind behind having teenage girls jump on airplanes and fly to his crib undetected against their parents' wishes. Please. He had chicks locked up in dungeons. Please. I believe he fucked all kinds of chicks. Underage girls, all kinds of stuff. But I don't believe he was masterminding half that shit. I believe that he was basically being treated like an emperor. He sat around writing records, singing records or whatever, and then they would say, you know, we got this girl for you. You know, we got this chick for you. You're going to bring her around. She wants to be a singer or a dancer. She wants to go on tour with you. And he fucked her. Probably knew she was 16. Probably not. Probably didn't know. Who knows? I don't think he was sending people to the Burger King to pick them up. Like, come on. That sounds dramatic as shit. If you're a grown man, why would you let that happen? I believe R. Kelly did a lot of the stuff they say he did. But I think that they're trying to put a lot of pressure on him. By calling them a retard and a mastermind at the same time, that don't typically work with me. It works a lot when it comes to like leftists who truly believe that both George Bush and Donald Trump are two of the stupidest people of all time. And at the same time, they're masterminds behind all evil things. It's like, look, either he's an idiot or he's not. I've never met somebody who is super stupid and at the same time a super genius. It's one or the other. And I think most of the time these people lean more towards the stupid camp. And R. Kelly, I definitely believe that people was going to get those girls for him. And he just wasn't asking any questions. Because why would he? You know? He probably trusted the people who were bringing him the girls. They're definitely probably paying some of these girls off. Absolutely, he was fucking them girls. I don't believe he was personally going to get them. I don't believe he was personally talking to them and telling them to hop on an airplane. But I believe his team probably did that. You know? I absolutely believe that shit. Because I can see it being realistic. It's realistic that he's got an entourage. They're going to take care of him. They probably were going to get his drugs for him. They're probably going to get his drink for him. R. Kelly's going to pull up to a gas station or a liquor store by himself and go and get some liquor. No way. He sent little Chuck or whatever to go do a little Earl. You know? He wants something to drink. He's going to go get it for him. He ain't going into Walmart by himself. He ain't going to get it. He might go to a restaurant or something like that for himself. But when you become a celebrity at that level, you're not just about to go hang out in Walmart. I mean, no. You're certainly not about to just go hang out at the high school. So when they started saying that kind of stuff, I started getting suspicious. But I certainly believe that he just didn't ask any questions. You know? And he just took whatever was offered. He was definitely keeping it on the down low. Nobody had that. It was so creepy. And when you recontextualize all his songs, it's super creepy, aren't they? R. Kelly's team, yeah. I definitely believe they went and got those girls for him. You know? I don't think he had to ask either, if we're being honest. I think they just kept him plied with fresh chicks. And when you lead a debaucherous life like that, he probably wasn't even thinking about it, dog. He's just looking at it like, that's another girl. She hanging around. Who knows who brought her here? How she got here? He probably don't even know those girls' names. And they come out the woodwork talking about R. Kelly did this to me. Who brought you to his house? For the record, ask that question. He got a gigantic fucking mansion. How did you get inside of it? You mean to tell me he had no security? He ain't had no driver? He ain't had none of this stuff? Huh. It's not like coming to my house where, you know, you just wander up and down the street. Oh, this is Mongo's address. 555 Centaur Drive. Hey, how you doing? This nigga live in a mansion. It's a gated community. How'd you get from the airport to his mansion? So that means the driver saw you, security saw you, his attendants in the house saw you. You know, like this. Okay, whatever. You watch that 70s show? That's awful. That show sounds terrible. Katt hasn't rolled a joint in a decade. Well, he probably not rolling his own joints. He's probably rich enough where somebody rolled the joints for him, which I wouldn't do. That's how DMX ended up in the situation he was in. Ha! Oh my God, plastic deck chairs. Mongo, don't you know that asking these questions means that you're defending a rapist? I'm just asking questions because I believe he did it. I just don't think he did it the way that they say he did it. I don't think he was smart enough. I don't think the guy he was good at his craft. And I think once you get really good at your craft and you dedicate it to it, you have people take care of some of your more base desires on your own. You know, they bring you girls, they bring you weed or liquor or pills or whatever you want. You don't go get that shit yourself, especially when you're a superstar. You don't go get that shit yourself. You know? Shit, my uncle wouldn't even go buy his own liquor. That nigga ain't have no, he ain't have $100 million. He sends my cousin and shit to the store. Go get me some Hennessy. So you think You think R. Kelly ain't sending like, we need some girls around here. Go get some girls. And then he goes and pick up some girls. They probably don't even know how old the fucking girls is. All kinds of stuff. Just come on, man. It's common sense. Plus, it's the simplest way. They try to make people sound like it's the most evil setup ever. Because even if you don't believe it, they want to put the situation that is so bad that you can't do nothing but believe it. But I think sometimes by adding more details to it, you prove how improbable it is. That goes to the Matt Riddle thing where Candy Cartwright claims she was forced to perform oral sex in a van with 5 other people being in the van. And I'm like, wait a minute. Matt wasn't driving, so the driver was still awake. And there's 4 other people in there? Wait a minute. Well, I'm not going to relitigate that thing. I'm just saying, like, sometimes the details, when you're told details, you're like, wait a second, that don't make sense. And when I'm hearing, like, oh, I was married to R. Kelly, he put me in a dungeon in the attic. Like, wait, what? He was chained up in the attic? Wait a minute, so you think his attendants in the house saw you chained in the attic? Everybody, all these people that saw you chained up in the attic. Wait a minute. Like, this is where the NDAs come in, ain't it? You can't talk about what you've seen. Ain't this where the NDAs come from? R. Kelly had me chained up in the attic. Get out of here. Get out of here. But I mean, I get it. I understand, People, they believe weird things. I ask questions because I want to know, Make it make sense. How did he get away with this? NDAs don't cover crimes. Yeah, you could easily break. See, here's the thing: an NDA, it has to be written in a certain way in order to be valid. And if the crime is, if it's a serious crime, then yeah, it can't cover it. Especially in certain states, NDAs won't even cover a crime. New York and California, I'm pretty sure, have sexual assault carve-outs for NDAs. They can get it lifted. They can get it thrown out. That's the crazy thing. Like, people think NDAs are the most ironclad contracts ever in life. It's like, no, they're not. They can be thrown out. Didn't that woman get that NDA she broke with Trump thrown out? Like, you can get these things thrown out. You could take an NDA to a judge and say, I want to be released from this. I don't think it's fair. And they throw it out. If they agree with you, they will throw it out. So you can get an NDA thrown out. It doesn't mean anything. You know what I'm saying? And I think if it definitely covers up a serious crime, it can be thrown out. So if somebody was the victim of sexual assault or whatever, I'm pretty sure they could go and get an NDA and get that thing thrown out. G Coalition Brother says, if she was really forced to do oral with 5 other people in the car, wouldn't she be suing all 5 instead of just trying to cancel Riddle? Yeah, like that was nuts to me. And and the thing is, most people did not even read that thing. They just say he was accused. And I'm like, bro, did you even read what he was accused of? And how little sense it makes? In front of witnesses? One of whom was wide awake because he was driving? Come on, man. How big was his van? This van would have to be, it'd have to be like a school bus, or even bigger than a school bus, in order for it to make sense where this guy couldn't see it or hear it. Because if it was like a van, like I'm thinking of like a van, he would have heard it and saw it. And then you would bring him in to corroborate. Because he would have heard it and saw it. But nobody, you're defending a sexual assault. I'm asking a question. You told me a story and I'm like, wait a minute. This tidbit of this story doesn't make sense. Not even, the guy already admitted to fucking her. So I'm not saying he didn't. I'm saying in this particular situation, this doesn't make sense. The IWC acts like NDA is like a RICO Act. It's not the most ironclad thing in the world. Like, it's also not the most suspicious thing in the world because companies have people sign NDAs all the time. You know, there's all kinds of various policies where you're not supposed to repeat um, who the clients are or whatever the case may be. There's all kinds of rules in corporate America, bro. And in Hollywood, there's all kinds of rules. I'm not surprised at all that people would get involved with powerful or influential people and they would have you sign some kind of NDA so you wouldn't talk about it. It's not because they're doing anything wrong, but you never know. You know? Imagine you was like Arnold Schwarzenegger's chauffeur or something like that. He's going to make you sign an NDA because he might be on the phone and you overhear something. You might pull up to a building and you might see something you got no business seeing. You know, somebody may, hey, oh no, did you pick up my Coke, baby? Or whatever out the window, and you don't want you going out repeating that stuff. You know, this stuff is simple. It's not that hard. You know, all this stuff is shut the fuck up money. You was involved with something, you know, and I don't want you talking about it. Don't go write a book. Don't run to the National Enquirer. Just shut the fuck up. You know, but if it's criminal, if it's like some super crime, you're not gonna. Here's the weird thing: the belief that everything is like a super crime is really what is going to do damage to a lot of legitimate businesses. Because there's going to be people eventually who are going to start saying, well, and I'm pretty sure New York could be the first one to do it. It's probably going to turn around and say, well, we're going to get rid of non-disclosure agreements. We're not going to allow people to do it. And that's going to blow up the entertainment industry 100%. Because every fucking actor, musician, record executive, etc., is going to make people sign non-disclosure agreements. Why? Because if you hear a song from Rihanna that nobody else has heard, and then you go on Twitter and you start talking about it, you're going to ruin the surprise. You're going to ruin hundreds of millions of dollars in marketing, and they're going to be pissed. And they're probably going to put a bullet in your ass. All right? If you ruin hundreds of millions of dollars, if you ruin Beyonce's album because you ran your fucking mouth on Twitter or Instagram, somebody's going to put you on the ground. All right? And it's really that simple. It's in your best interest to shut the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? It's in your best interest to be quiet. And if you're around when they're doing that stuff, it's in your best interest to be quiet. Now, sometimes they're going to do things that might ruin their reputation. That's something that, they don't want everybody knowing. It could be gay lovers. It could be affairs. It could be whatever. But I guarantee you, everybody in somebody's entourage is wearing it. Got an NDA. Beyonce has such a tight control over her own intellectual property. She doesn't even let people take pictures of her. She's had her attorneys attack blogs to take down unflattering pictures. You think she ain't making everybody who show up at her birthday party sign an NDA? You thinking you probably can't have any conversation whatsoever with Beyonce without her having an NDA involved. She controls that much of her surroundings, and her team does. There's just no way. Everybody who's famous works off these NDAs because they have to be normal people at some point. They have to have normal people problems. You can't just go and start posting selfies of you and Beyonce in the shower or whatever. We was hanging out at Walmart. She's not going to Walmart for starters. So you can forget it. She's not like you. So it's not going to work. And people don't get that. Security guards, and this is the thing, or, Damari is right. Security guards, drivers, maids, gardeners, people who work in the house, nannies, the parents of their friends' children, the children's friends, all that kind of stuff is going to end up signing NDAs. Because why would they give you the opportunity to gossip about them, especially when they've seen how that stuff has damaged careers of other people? Look at what happened to Michael Jackson. He had all those kids around him, all those parents, and they all went out talking about everything they saw. He should have made all the motherfuckers sign non-disclosure agreements. That had been suspicious, but then maybe we wouldn't have had so many people come out of nowhere. What was going on in Michael's house? You know, what is Michael's house built like? They're like, if he wanted you to know, he'd have let you in. But he probably wasn't even thinking about that in like the 90s or whatever. You know, this is crazy. I would have people sign NDAs, and I don't do shit. But again, you never know what you overhear. You never know. My cousin might come over and say some really incriminating dumb shit, you know, because that's what he do. Or whatever the case may be. I don't want you running and telling the whole world about it. But if I was running for office or something like that, hell yeah, you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. To work for me, hell yeah. Because you don't want people running and talking to the media. And it only matters to people for which you can sell information. It doesn't matter to like regular old folks like me and you. Nobody cares if you doing pills. But if you out here pretending to be Mr. Rogers and yet you're back there snorting pills, yeah, they're probably gonna be like, look, we don't go keep this on the down low. Just don't talk about it. Their attorney's probably not gonna just get involved. Like, you hear, hey, this is how we do things. You're gonna be in the inner circle, this is what you gotta do. You're gonna have to learn how to shut the fuck up. We pay you, give you some money. Put you in position, again, patronage, right? Put you in position, but you're gonna have to be quiet. You have to learn the various arts of shutting the fuck up. And sometimes people don't. Like there's been people who have come out, I think it was Carrie Hilson was one of them. It came out and started making a big deal about how she wrote songs for Beyonce, and her career probably would have been so much better if she'd have shut up. If she wouldn't have said that, she probably would have went so much further in her life. But she had to come out and talk about how she wrote songs for Beyonce, and Beyonce didn't really write that song. I wrote it, or somebody else wrote it, blah, blah, blah. And guess what? It was like, nah. you damaging the Meal Ticket's career. Nah. There's nothing to talk about with Beyonce, really. She's a robot, so there's nothing to talk about, really. When I look for a song and find 10 different versions of it, Mongo is the gift. The fact that people are still trying to run with the Candy Cartwright is the reason he shouldn't be getting the work thing. Yeah, it's very weird. It's extremely weird. But there's nothing you can do about it because they believe the story that they were told, and they believe that all allegations are legitimate, and somebody cried, so it's real. It's not realistic, but what can you tell them? All right, it's been 2 hours and 5 minutes. This thing went longer than I planned to, and I didn't get to the other subjects I wanted to talk about. I'll talk about it next week. Thanks everybody for your time. What is this here? Obviously, they have a right to privacy, but at some point, you're hiding stuff. Yeah, I do think that they are hiding stuff. That's the thing. But everybody has something that they're hiding. Everybody's doing stuff that they have no business doing. But the problem is, does it genuinely affect somebody else? Like, I'm pretty sure, like a doctor, right? Like a doctor has your right to privacy. So doctors would know if somebody's walking around here with HIV, but they can't tell anybody. Legally, you can't tell anybody. They may know that you're spreading HIV. They still can't tell anybody. So your lawyers, you could admit to murder to your attorney, like, yeah, I killed him, but you still have to defend me. And the same thing, they put your friends in the same positions. Like, yeah, I'm having an affair, but I'm an actress, and I don't want nobody to know that, so I want you to be quiet. Yes, I'm hiding something. I'm hiding that I'm having an affair. I'm hiding that I'm about to give birth to somebody else's baby. I'm hiding that. That's why I believe the Ray Donovan thing is real. There are people out there, because people are human beings. There's no doubt somebody out here doing something they ain't got no business right now that need to be covered up. It ain't always, butt sex or rape or anything like that. It's completely consensual between two people, but it might be between two people and it might ruin somebody's career, or it might distract from their career, or it might just be something that's very unflattering. They don't want it spread out in the media. There have been careers that have kind of been derailed by affairs. Alicia Keys is probably one of those people that I can think of. Even though I think she probably chose to just chill on that. But for a long time, people were very mad at Alicia Keys because she stole Swiss beats from whoever his first wife was. And it wasn't very flattering of her, but she could have got that squash if she wanted to. She was at that point in her life where she could have been like, look, this don't need to get out. But she went on ahead and let it happen, and she took her lumps for it. But then again, at the same time, it wouldn't matter. Condoms are for cheaters and rapists. All right, man. We're gonna talk to Damari since he's new here. I'm gonna give him one more. He says the interesting thing about the Jericho situation is people think he forced somebody to sign an NDA after making a pass. Doesn't make much sense, dog. Like, why would she sign an NDA? I think if let's say that situation occurred, it wouldn't be Jericho. It'd be Tony Khan, and it would be because he was trying to protect the company. And that would be the same thing with the Vince McMahon situations. Is Vince probably wasn't, he could always make the claim that the non-disclosure agreements weren't to protect his reputation, but was to protect the company from unfounded accusations or whatever the case may be. So in this situation, at that time in 2019, AEW was in a very delicate situation. You could argue that Tony Khan was thinking maybe letting somebody who could go out there and talk about the inner workings of the company and potentially claim that Chris Jericho was a sexually harasser, and I have to fine him or suspend him or fire him or whatever, it could possibly look bad on the company. So I'm going to keep this under wraps. We're going to make her sign an NDA to get her release. Now, it's a little egregious, but if you're being overly cautious, then yeah, you could do that. Don Callis went through a situation like that where it was pretty well known that he was under investigation in Impact. I don't think Scarlett and Cross signed non-disclosure agreements, even though I think they may have, because they haven't talked about it. But I know it was pretty open that he was under investigation, even though Anthem never put it out there that, oh yeah, we're looking into whatever his real name is. But it was out there, and everybody knew it. And now that was 5 years ago, and now nobody cares. So I say nobody cares because they're not thinking about it. But that's the power of, they did an investigation. Scarlett and Cross left, and he left shortly thereafter. So there it is. How do you harass, assault, and get them to sign non-disclosure? Well, you pay them, for starters. If you give them money, they will go away. Or if you give them what they want, which is to release them, which is usually going to be a release. Now, I'm pretty sure they're not going to put in the non-disclosure agreement, you were sexually harassed. We're very sorry about that. We're going to give you $50,000 and you sign this and go away. They're probably going to put it in some very vanilla language, and that vanilla language is going to cover what could potentially have happened in certain situations that may or may not be proven in a court of law. But if so really serious things did happen, then I doubt that the NDA would cover it. If a real serious thing happened, I doubt the NDA would cover it anyway. And plus, she's from Illinois. They got that damn thing thrown out. And that's the weird thing that to me is like, if something really terrible happened to her, a state like California, a state like Illinois, a state like New York could easily get that thing thrown out. You know, she's a woman, for Christ's sake. You know, like it's not that hard for her to say, I want to sue them. So, and I think this non-disclosure agreement was unfair, or whatever the case may be, or it was too broad, or too vague, or whatever the case may be. Can you please throw this thing out? And they might actually do it. Yeah, Jericho's sitting on some really big money and was very important at the time. Yeah, I mean, it's always how it is when you're doing business. You never know how investors are going to react. And Hollywood's a little bit different, but you never know how investors are going to react. You never know how talent is going to react. You never know how the fans are going to react. And this is the reason why, somebody like Kevin Spacey may not go to jail, but he's not going to ever be able to work again. He's, you can get double tapped in the back of your head and call it a suicide in the Kevin Spacey trial, but you're not going to go to jail. He's not going to go to jail. He'll never work again, but he doesn't need to. He's already in the system. He's already got everything together, so it's going to be good. He says, I get that if you signed it prior to action, but what about afterwards? I would imagine there wouldn't be any need for you to sign it after. I mean, maybe. Now, here's the thing that could be the case. Let's say it happened on Jericho's ship, and he made everybody who went on the ship sign an NDA. Then, it could have happened on the ship, and she had already pre-signed the NDA. That might be something she could argue in court if she wanted to. She could say, well, I signed it upon going on the ship, but once I was on the ship, X, Y, and Z happened, and I don't think this should be covered under the non-disclosure agreement. She could always go to court. That's the thing about these issues is when something is a legal binding document, you can always go to court. Always. And see if the judge will keep it. Judges have thrown out some of everything. They've thrown out non-disclosure agreements. They've thrown out prenups. they've thrown out prenups for the dumbest reasons in the world. They've thrown out NDAs for the dumbest reasons in the world. If she said, I signed this non-disclosure agreement under duress, meaning I was coerced, I was threatened, or I did so in order to get out of this really bad situation, they throw that thing out. Because they don't allow contracts under duress. If you sign a prenup under duress, they'll throw it out. And I've seen them do it. And they've talked about it. If you present a prenup to a woman 10 minutes before she get married, she could sign it 2 years later to get it thrown out. Why? Because she signed it under duress. What was the duress? Well, that the wedding would be canceled if she didn't sign it. So you didn't give her proper time. She didn't have her own attorney. Yada, yada, yada. We're going to throw it out. Then do the same thing with an NDA. She didn't have her own attorney. We'll throw it out. It was under duress. She was coerced, threatened, whatever. She threw it out. It's trying to cover up a crime. Threw it out. These things, they can do that. So the idea that these people have NDAs and they're just living with it means that they're okay with what they signed. And it's not that big of a deal. And probably they agreed that it's probably better off for them not to talk about it. She's from Chicago. They're definitely getting out there on the show. Too much going on in the city. Absolutely. Yeah, she's. Look, I'm pretty sure Tony Khan has had people sign non-disclosure agreements I would imagine he learned that from his parents, or especially his dad. Dad had the business. Dad was an inventor, if I remember correctly. You want people to sign non-disclosure agreements. You don't want them talking about your inventions or talking about the inner workings of your company or whatever the case may be. It's it's out of the ordinary to people who aren't thinking about it. But we've been sitting here talking about Hollywood for 2 hours. This is exactly what they do. This is how they get control over people. It's not non-disclosure agreements. It's usually through jamming them up. You know, don't say anything about me because I can expose you. You know, I got somebody on the inside of TMZ that can leak this story. We talked about that before. CM Punk tried to get Ryan Satin to kill a story for him because he knew somebody on the inside of TMZ. You think people don't do that shit all the time? You think they didn't do that when it comes to like that Biden kid? Oh shit, they got his laptop? Oh boy. Let me make a phone call. We're gonna kill this thing. Hell yeah. It ain't gotta be about butt sex. It might be that your kids are out here smoking crack. And you don't want you don't want people to know. Yeah, I mean, football players, rappers, everything, they're not smart enough to get that stuff done. I'm pretty sure LeBron James probably got one. He's smarter. And because he's got a team. A lot of basketball players, whatever, they don't got a team around them. But LeBron James is the franchise. He's got a team. They don't want that Kobe Bryant situation happening again where he gets accused of rape or something stupid like that. So they're going to act like Kobe Bryant is definitely going to be like under lockdown. They're going to control everything. Yeah, see, that was the weird thing. Because I'm pretty sure in discussing what he was discussing with Jim Cornette, it was likely something specific to AEW that he was going to be discussing. And probably it was the network, the name of all of the... Again, this was before it launched. So it was probably all kind of details that he was going to share with Cornette because he wanted Cornette to be involved on the ground floor. So he probably shared with him all kind of details that ended up coming out later. But it was also probably some other people that was involved that we don't know that much about. And other things that they discussed. But I don't think it was like, I'm about to build a wrestling company with crack money, and I don't want you to tell anybody about it. Like, I don't think that's going to be the case. So it was definitely like, there's definitely some information that he was sharing with Jim Cornette that he didn't want to repeat. Which I'm surprised Jim even signed it. That's what I'm tripping on. I'm surprised he signed it. I'd have thought as soon as he heard that, he'd be like, "What the hell? No, it's going to be awful." Like, if you'd have presented me with a non-disclosure agreement, I probably would sign it. Given that I wouldn't expect to come across anything that would be worth money. If we've been like in a situation where like Jim Cornette, he had a podcast. So you probably just want to say, look, I don't want you talking about this on your podcast. So sign this non-disclosure agreement. Other people you might want to say, you might have access to the media. Sign this non-disclosure agreement. But for average people, it's probably not even worth it. You don't even know anybody to get them jammed up like that. It says crazy how he balances all three. It is. Well, technically, none of his teams are doing well, but at least he's trying. I give him credit for trying. Trying to have a soccer team, a football team, and a wrestling league, and be actually involved with all three of them is very interesting. It's quite impressive. He's a hardworking guy. He need a girlfriend though. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like that man needs a lady. You need a girlfriend, yo. Absolutely. You don't disclose our emails. See, the thing is, people need to be told that shit though, because they don't know what. I work in a hospital, so 99% of the information I'm privy to, I shouldn't share. So it is what it is. But you'd be surprised at how people so openly talk about things that they're not supposed to be talking about in front of people that are not supposed to hear that shit. It's so common. It's very common. And they drill it into your head that you cannot talk about X, Y, and Z in common areas, and people don't care. People don't get fired for it either. But we also don't have to sign non-disclosure agreements. It's just HIPAA violations and risk management stuff and all that shit. If they wanted to take you out, they got plenty of ammunition. Or you were talking to somebody over the phone. I'm like, oh God, get the fuck. They called me. What the hell? How did they get my number? Because they didn't want me to talk to them. You said the employee handbook is more common sense. Yeah, the employee handbook is written to apply to everybody. That's the thing that makes sense. Is I question how independent contractors are under the employee handbook. I don't know. I guess it would imagine to anybody who signed a contract, but it's more human resources shit. Human resources, they deal with a little bit of legality, but an NDA is like a completely legal thing. Yeah, the Jags, that's not a very good team. He also has a very, I've heard some really bad things about the Jaguar Stadium, how poor it is, and it's in poor shape and stuff like that. But when it comes to whether the team wins or not, he can only put pieces in place, and the team has to play and win. There's so much you can do there. The same thing with soccer. You can only do so much when it comes to real sports. You can only get the coach, hope the coach puts together the right team, hope you have the right president in place and all that kind of stuff. He's not going to micromanage those things. I don't think he has a real passion for football, either version of football, of than he does for wrestling. I think he has more of a passion for wrestling, more of an interest there. How do I get an NDA about the time I pooped my pants? To be to be quite honest, that sounds like something that somebody would get an NDA for because it's embarrassing. You know, it's on the front of the TMZ. Arnold Schwarzenegger shits himself in Staten Island home or something like that. You're like, what? Click. What is that about? My Lions are in the playoffs, dog. I'm excited. They're probably gonna lose the first fucking game, but at least they're there. They got there and they're hosting a game too, so that's great. All right, I really need to get off this joint now. All right, thank you everybody for your time. I appreciate it. We'll be back Thursday for our live stream. Then we'll be back here next week, Sunday. Hopefully, to talk about anime and unless somebody breaks the internet again. All right, peace out.